irked in the air.
Delta 1943, cancel takeoff clearance.
There's been some major fumbles recently at the airport, planes nearly colliding on the runway. Southwest Airlines still recovering from their holiday meltdown.
The airlines have to do their part, get ready, staff up, and take care of passengers.
In a TSR exclusive, White House Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, he's stepping into the shade room with the big changes we're all about to see at the airport and what we all need to do before we get flued out this summer. I'm Justin Carter. TSR Newz starts right now. Get ready because the summer travel outlook is looking busy and it's got many airlines doing a lot more with a lot less. Many of them too are taking notes after what happened to Southwest Airlines over the holidays. 17,000 Southwest flights canceled, people stranded at the airport, unable to get through to customer service for days. There was also a Senate hearing on Thursday, Southwest executives sincerely apologizing and said that they did not have enough equipment to handle that winter freeze that many of us experienced. They also said on Friday that they're launching fixes to their crew scheduling system that failed. Also another debacle. Listen to this.
Delta 1943, cancel takeoff clearance.
American 106 Heavy, American 106 Heavy, hold position.
On January 13th, two planes nearly ran into each other at New York's JFK Airport. A Delta plane was just taking off when air traffic controllers noticed that an American Airlines flight was crossing the runway in front of it. This graphic gives you a visual. They came within 1,000 feet of crashing. The same thing happened just last Saturday in Austin, Texas. A FedEx plane was landing just as a Southwest Airlines flight was cleared for takeoff. They were just 100 feet from each other. In his State of the Union address Tuesday night, President Biden lauded his $1.2 trillion infrastructure law. $25 billion of that is going to go towards our airports and air traffic control. It's something that Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says is critical.
You can't negate the fact, Secretary Buttigieg, that this is scary for people.
For example, that near miss at JFK, that was a situation where there was a pilot error. A quick-thinking air traffic controller intervened. I actually spoke to the controller, and he said, look, this is just me doing my job. But that job, of course, is so important, life-saving. Now, the good news is there are many, many layers of protection so that there's really a focus on eliminating any single point of failure to make sure there's systems backing up systems, people backing up people. But again, that doesn't get maintained on its own. We've got to work to make sure that we continue the extraordinarily safe track record of passenger travel in America.
What kind of things in this bill will help prevent that? Obviously, safety is an issue and safety impacts us all, especially as we start flying out this summer. We
got the most complex aviation airspace in the world. And yet flying in America continues to be the safest way to travel. We want to keep it that way and make sure that we're investing accordingly. So you're going to see two things. One is what I might call the back of house. Most passengers will never find themselves inside an air traffic controller, but every passenger counts on what's going on in that air traffic control tower and the work that happens in those operation centers. We're investing in the equipment. We're investing in the training. We're investing in the people and the vision to continue modernizing that system. But at the same time, we're also making a lot of investments on the things passengers do see, the terminals themselves. Everything from investing in small airports where sometimes they haven't even had permanent buildings, to some of the biggest airports in the United States that are ready for a wider concourse, a better security checkpoint experience, an upgraded baggage handling system.
Another one has to do with Southwest Airlines and the debacle that we all experienced, including myself, who on December 26th, I had a Southwest flight from my hometown to Atlanta, where I live, and I had to drive to Atlanta from Philadelphia. My question to you is, what is being done to prevent some of these things from happening again? How can we fly with ease?
When we had the Southwest incident, what happened there was that going into the holidays with an extreme weather event, every other airline did much better than you would have expected based on how they're performing over the summer. Every other airline was pretty resilient in their ability to bounce back, but not Southwest. And there's some very specific reasons for that airline's got to accept responsibility and accountability for. But we were able to hold them accountable because of what we did last year to raise the bar on customer service. This year, we're going to keep pushing and we're going to keep raising the bar. One thing the president mentioned last night in the State of the Union speech that I think is especially important is fees for being seated next to your children. This ought to be common sense. I feel even more strongly about this than I'm a parent. You shouldn't have to pay or haggle with a gate agent or negotiate with fellow passengers just to be able to sit next to your kids. That should be automatic. And we are going to make sure that there are rules to require that. Although I'm also calling on the airlines to do it without us making them do it, because it's just the right thing to do.
Some last question for you, and it has to do with the Chinese spy balloon. Everybody's talking about it. Are there safety protocols in place to ensure, when something foreign like this happens, maybe a foreign emergency happens, the flyers are safe, American citizens are safe?
Remember, the balloon was flying at an extremely high altitude, which meant that if it were to be taken down, as it eventually was, it was passing through airspace, and you had to make sure that there were no aircraft flying under that altitude that could have been impacted, as well, of course, as taking care of passengers on the ground. So the FAA wound up calling a ground stop. About 55 flights were delayed, I think on average between an hour and 2 hours while that operation played out. And that was a very high-profile example, but this kind of coordination goes on every day between the military, space program. If you just think about a space launch, that's going right through the national airspace on its way up into orbit. That could be an area where commercial flight operations are taking place. And so the FAA works to make sure at every step, whether it's a military operation, a space operation, a weather emergency, or anything else, that we are erring on the side of caution and making sure that passengers are always safe.
President Biden said on Tuesday that the United States used to be #1 when it came to infrastructure. Now we're sitting at number 13, and he says that he cannot have that. This infrastructure law will also fund projects like repairing and replacing our crumbling bridges, and also repair and replace poisonous lead pipes, many of which are still sitting in some of America's oldest cities, including Philadelphia. They're about to get $500 million to replace poisonous lead pipes, many of which pump water into Black communities. The city of Rochester, New York, and Washington, D.C., they'll too get about $50 million to replace their pipes as well. For TSR News, I'm Justin Carter.